yeah, it's all good while there's a tenant in there. But what if the tenant gets their life together and they decide they want to go buy a house now? You've got to know how to market to people. You can't just put your cousin Ray Ray in the house because they're not going to pay you the way that you need to be paid.
TamKnows real estate, she do. Yeah. Whoa, TamKnows real estate.
Hey guys, welcome again to TamKnows Real Estate. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a special guest, Victor Johnson. He's going to be talking to us about real estate investing. Now, the company he has started, Nico Don Projects, and he does a lot with real estate investing, helping the youth learn about being owners in real estate, as well as credit consulting. So I got that right?
You got that right.
Okay, all right. So we hope we're going to learn today. So all of you beginners, everyone who wants to know about how to break into real estate investing, because one thing that I've noticed, Victor, is that everybody don't share. They don't share the information. So, people are kind of like, blindly going into investing and making a lot of mistakes that are costly. And it's not it's not funny when you're losing a lot of money. So if, I thought you would be a good person to speak to kind of like help us at least know the first few steps. How do we get started? We're all going to have bumps and mistakes, but how do we get started? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm so excited to hear all of your tips and wisdom. So Mr. Johnson, or can I call you Victor?
You can call me Victor. Call me Vic, Nico, Victor. I'm all good with all of that. I'm just a down-to-earth dude.
Yep. Good. So how did you get started in real estate investing?
So it's one of those funny things, Tam, is that 20 years before I even got started, I was very interested in getting involved. So I didn't get started till I was like 36 years old, 37 years old. But at like 20, 21, just like a lot of young folks now, very excited about getting into it. And at that time, I'm dating myself a little bit, but at that time, they had these overnight commercials with Carlton Sheets. There was a guy, he was teaching no money down. You could buy any house, no money down, and invest in it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I would read those books and order the videos and all this stuff, but I never applied it to myself. And so fast forward several years, I'd gone through a lot of debt and making good money, but was still living check to check. And then I got a move to Austin, Texas in 2013 that changed everything. My income was changed. I mean, there's a whole book about it, Proven Pathways of Wealth and Happiness. But in that situation, moving from Atlanta to Austin, Texas, my money got better. But what I didn't want to do is go back into the debt that I had prior to that. And so I started opening myself up to different conversations, and I came across somebody that was talking about, hey, you should start getting into rental properties. And of course, it sparked my mind again from 20 years before. And so I really was like, you know what, I should revisit this whole thing. And so that's what got me involved, was that I just opened my mind to trying some new things so that I could stop being in debt. I really wanted to just create some passive income streams. And so this was a good opportunity for me to revisit that idea. And I basically just listened to a radio commercial one day, again, opening up my mind to different things. I was listening to talk radio, not the hip hop station and all the R&B station. I was just listening to talk radio. And one of the commercials was, come out to this hotel tonight. If you've ever thought about becoming a real estate investor, we're going to be talking about it. So that was the start of it. And I guess ultimately I ended up going to a weekend course where I, sat 8 hours on Saturday, 8 hours on Sunday. But when the big pitch came, hey, sign up with us for $30,000, that wasn't me. I basically took all them notes for them 2 days of knowledge and got to work on Monday morning. So that's how it started. Okay. And that brings me to a question, because before the pandemic, you would hear a lot of people, a lot of the folks that were on the reality shows that were, flipping homes and things like that. And they will host a lot of events like that. And I often wonder, what are they, what exactly is going on there? Are they really giving valuable information, or are they just trying to see who they can get to invest, or, so I never quite knew what that was all about. Typically, with those situations, they're going to introduce you to the concept, give you some high level kind of insights about it. Definitely, they're going to share some testimonials of their best performing clients. So you could get excited about it, but there's always going to be a pitch at the end to say, hey, look, if this isn't enough for you, you can jump on in our team and we'll walk you through the process. I just want to say this because I am also a coach in that space. But what I want to say is that the bottom line is no matter how much money you spend on coaching, you got to apply the information. And that's where I run into so many people that I've even signed up, but they come to me and say, well, I've already spent $30,000 on the courses. So I already know this and that. I said, well, how many deals have you done? I ain't done no deals yet. And that's what happens. So these people going in debt to get the knowledge, but they never applied it. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
So how would you suggest then someone like myself or, or not like myself, younger or older that's looking to get into the business, how would you suggest that they get started? What should they do?
So first thing I would tell anybody, and this is really beyond real estate investing, anything that's outside of your current comfort zone that you want to get into, you have to figure out why you really want to do it. Not the what, but why. What's motivating you to become a real estate investor? Okay, you want to make a lot of money. I get that, but there's a lot of ways to make money that's easier than real estate investing. There's a lot of ways harder than real estate investing. Right. But ultimately, you have to decide, why am I doing this? Because there are going to be some bumps along the way. And is that going to be enough to deter you from keeping going through it? Or are you going to be able to say, no, I really want to leave this job I've been at for 15 years and I'm not getting no more raises because I'm already at the top of my peak. How can I make more money without working extra hours? I don't know. You got to figure out that why. And once you've decided that that why is strong enough, then you can go into anything. But for sure, real estate investing is one that you'll be super successful because you're locked in and you're committed to getting to the end of a successful transaction.
So you basically just have to have a passion for it. It can't be your only motivation, cannot be, I would like to make some money. Exactly. That can't be your only motivation.
No, absolutely not, because it's hard to find these properties that are the right deal. It's hard to put your team together and all that kind of stuff. So you invest a lot of time and money up front, and then the returns just flow in there, afterwards. But it requires some commitment, dedication, and, a few dollars on the front end to make sure that you are successful.
Okay. So if I'm getting started today, and I'm passionate about it, it's something that I've always wanted to do, kind of like how you started, something that you thought about in your early 20s and it came back an opportunity to do it. What should I do first?
So I would definitely find somebody already doing it. And that's not a sell for me. I mean, obviously I do that, but you need to be around somebody who is actively involved with doing real estate transactions because, with definitely since the pandemic, there's so many different funding opportunities or options. You got to figure out what's the money. But I guess the very first step is just kind of figuring out, is there somebody in my immediate circle that I trust or that I feel comfortable learning from that's willing to work with me or kind of let me serve as an apprentice, so to speak, right? Or go ahead and invest in, of course, after doing your research on that kind of thing, find somebody that can help you. If all of that is behind you or you're not interested in going that route and you just want to just start figuring it out on your own, you need to find out what properties are worth in the area that you decide that you want to invest in. Okay. So I guess the best way to kind of figure this out is, one, do you want to actually be a real estate investor and be a landlord where you actually are dealing with the tenant, collecting the rent payments and all that kind of stuff? Or are you excited about real estate investing from being a flipper? You buying a property that's all beat up and old, you got it at a good price, you get a team together to get it rehabbed based on what the values are in that neighborhood, and then you sell it for a profit. I have chosen, with our company, we decided that buy and hold is the best strategy for us.
You said buy and
rental properties. Yeah, buy and hold. You're buying that property and holding it. Okay. And that is considered, usually that falls in the rental property category. I also do owner financing, meaning that I'm the bank. So I'll finance the buyer and allow them to do payments through terms with us. And they're actually buying the house. So, but those are long-term plays, huge returns, but it's a slower return. You know, you're getting that money gradually over time. What a lot of people are excited about is flipping. They're buying the property, selling it pretty quickly after they get it rehabbed, usually less than a year period of time. What people won't tell you, especially on these TV shows that you watch where they just flipped it and they show you the profit at the end, $78,000.
Yeah.
Well, because you flipped it, there's a tax implication on that money. And typically you're only going to bring home about 45 to 60 or, 45 to 60% of that money. I like to hold on to my money. So that's why buy and hold is a strategy that I like to go.
And so now with buy and hold, like how much do you need to have? Like what should I, be thinking that I should have saved up or have in the bank? How much money do I need to have?
So a conventional mortgage, so just meaning if you just walk into any bank that you work with and you say, hey, I want to buy an investment property. Typically they want you to have 20% down and you got to meet all the other underwriting criteria. Your credit score needs to be probably a 640, 650 FICO. Your debt to income need to be under 45%, whatever the conventional methods are. You pretty much need to be ready to bring 20 to 25% of the purchase price in equity or as a down payment for that transaction.
Right.
However,
go ahead.
Well, however,
go ahead.
Most real estate investors, and definitely us, we utilize alternative funding sources. So that might be a hard money lender, which is very expensive money, but typically you're only doing that so you can buy a property that's kind of beat up. They don't have the same criteria that the bank would. The bank won't let you buy a beat up house. So hard money lender lets you buy a beat up house at a higher interest rate. And typically you need to hurry up and get that house fixed up and refinanced so you can get out of the hard money loan.
So real quickly, explain that hard money.
So a hard money lender is typically they don't care anything about your credit or really your income for that matter. They're approving you based on the value of the property, what you said you're going to do to the property. And basically they're determining whether they can loan you the money based on the after repaired value. Okay. People know this as the ARV. What is the value of that house going to be after I repair it? And that's all the hard money lender cares about. They will say, well, do you feel like you can buy this house at a price that's basically 60% of what it would normally cost if it was all fixed up like the prettiest house on the block? 60, 70%. Some of them will do higher than that. Be cautious of those guys. But typically a hard money lender is going to look at the deal. And if you can show them through your the purchase price that you're getting it for and what they call a scope of work, the outline of the work that you're going to do to it, that basically by you putting in a new flooring and a new countertops and all these different things that the best looking house looks like, then you can get them to say, well, yeah, we'll give you the money. If you're going to do all that to get it to look like that, then we'll give you the money that you need. And those are
usually like the time frame if you're trying to, get the home ready before you're having to pay so much back.
Typically they give you 6 months to 12-month terms. Obviously, the longer that you carry it, the more costly it will be for you because you're not paying them any principal until you're done. You're paying them all interest and fees and processing costs and things like that. So you definitely need to approach a hard money lender knowing already what's your strategy to exit that loan. Are you going to sell this property? Are you going to rent it out and get it refinanced into a conventional loan? Or, what's your strategy? You got to know that before you sign that dotted line and close with those guys. Because their motivation, just being honest with you, Tambria, is that they are basically depending on you to default on that loan. Like if you don't pay those excessive fees, they're going to take that property back. So basically you just help them find a property at a low price and they're going to continue to rehab and fix it up and sell it for a profit and take you out the league.
So it's a huge risk. I mean, it's already a risk you
Yeah,
know, real estate investing itself is already a risk. So if you go that hard money way, it's definitely a larger risk than going a conventional loan.
absolutely.
And I want to point out that if you are interested in investing, let your loan officer know that, because you don't want an FHA loan. You have to live in the home if you have an FHA loan. So let your loan officer know exactly what you're, you know, trying to do, because you can't try to cut any corners. You know, you got to let them know exactly what you're trying to do. Why do you want the loan? And so I guess conventional would be the way to go. I've always even said, you know, just cash. I wish, you know, because I feel like, you know, owning a home that you're renting it out and you still have a mortgage on it. Sometimes that's tough, because
Mhm.
sometimes you might be dependent on that rent to make the
Yeah.
mortgage. And if that's the case, then that's a problem, you
Right.
know,
No,
so.
absolutely. That's a good point. And I think what a lot of people don't think about is that exact point that, yeah, it's all good while there's a tenant in there. But what if the tenant gets their life together and they decide they want to go buy a house now? You've got to know how to market to people. You can't just put your cousin Ray Ray in the house, because they're not going to pay you the way that you need to be paid. So there's an entire process around that. And again, you know, I work with my clients on how to screen the tenants. What do you need to be doing to make sure you got the right people in there? Because your entire gamble is based on having somebody making those payments to cover the mortgage. So you got to do that part properly. It's not just about buying the right house. It's about figuring out, well, what's my strategy to make this an income producing property?
Right.
Great questions, though.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And I only scratched the surface on the ways to finance properties. I mean, I could probably throw out a dozen of them, you know, if somebody was paying me to tell them. But the
Uh-huh.
bottom line is there are so many ways to do real estate. It's probably one of the most negotiable
Mhm.
transactions you'll ever do in your life.
Okay. So what do you think as far as like, what is the ideal return? Is there a percentage for the ideal return that you should expect? Or when you're making, because before you go into it, you need to make those calculations
Yeah.
and to see what the return is going to be. So what's the ideal return where, you know, you're not getting caught in something?
So the bottom line is, again, you got to figure out what strategy you're going with. So if you're approaching this as a fix and flip, meaning you're going to buy a house at a wholesale price because it needs repairs, you got to figure out how much repair you need to do, because you won't do the same amount of repairs on a property that you're going to flip and sell it for the highest possible value versus the house that you're going to rent out. And that's not to say that you want the house to be in horrible shape for your tenant, but you're not going to necessarily put granite countertops in where
Right.
you could go with a Formica countertop in a rental versus the granite on the flip, because again, on the flip, you're trying to maximize your return. So all of that has to be decided on the beginning. Like, what is my determination for the strategy for this house? Once you figure that out, it's kind of easier to figure out what the numbers should be. So for me, again, we do buy and hold, which is typically rental properties. So at the bare minimum, I mean, I'm talking about the bare minimum, I need to be able to cash flow every month $200 per month in profit, meaning that if my tenant is paying me $1,500 a month and my mortgage, my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are $1,000 a month. Now, most of y'all are thinking, oh, yeah, that's $500 of profit. But what a lot of real estate investors don't do, even seasoned investors I see, they don't factor their management cost. So whether you're paying somebody to manage that property, meaning to collect the rent, deal with maintenance requests, or if you self-manage it, which we do with our properties, that's still your time. You should be paying yourself to manage your property. And so a lot of people fail to factor that cost in there. And so for me, I budget an additional $150 a month for each property because I'm managing those properties. And so when I look at principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and my management fee, and I may even round that up a little bit just to give me a little extra buffer, I need to have at least $200 profit from what my tenant has paid in rent. So that's the first thing right there. Secondly, you want to have a formula that calculates how much profit did I make over the course of the year. So using the same $200 profit per month, I might look at, well, $200 times 12, that's $2,400 in profit that I made there. How much did I invest to buy this property? So if I invested $24,000 as a down payment on a $100,000 house, well, that's about a 10% cash on cash return over time. And I know it's a lot that I'm throwing out there, but the bottom line is I'm looking for at least $200 profit. And then over the time that I'm owning that property, which is usually 2 or 3 years that I'll own that before I decide to either sell it or something else, I need to have made at least 15% profit over my all-in investment, the dollars that I invested in everything. So that's how I do my numbers.
Okay.
I have a whole spreadsheet that I show with my clients that I walk them through so they understand how they should be looking at it. But, you got to be able to buy properties cheap, and you got to be able to buy them fast because it's competition right behind you trying to buy that house. Yeah. And then you need to be able to do your math pretty quickly and easily.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. So, and also one other thing that I think that when it comes to cost, like, do you think that the investor should be handy? Do you want to hire for services all the time? Do you want to hire a contractor, a plumber, a HVAC? And I'll give an example. My broker, he owns homes, and he went and he got his license for heating and air, electrician, okay. So that he won't have to hire those people if something goes wrong.
So that's a really great question. And if you ask 10 real estate investors, you probably get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
My strategy is that I'm not a handyman. I'm not a trades guy. Mm-hmm. So I would be doing myself a disservice by going in here trying to, put walls and paint up and new HVAC and all that stuff, because it's going to take me 10 times longer and I'm going to still not get it right. So I'm going to have to call somebody back in. I'd have wasted time and money in that situation.
Right.
The rule of thumb that I like to look at is how much is it going to cost me to get that trade done, or that's the person to come in, that contractor to come in and do the work, versus my time. How much do I get paid an hour? So when I look at what I earn every month all in, and I divide that by the number of hours that I work, it's a pretty substantial number. And I'm proud to say that because I've earned my way up to that. But if I decide to now go in here and start painting the bathrooms, I have now reduced my hourly salary from the hundreds that I make down to maybe $30, $40 an hour that I might pay a tradesman. So I like to look at that in my decisions. And for me, I'm much better at making relationships and building relationships. And I'd much rather hire somebody that lives in that community that can, it helps them and their family with some money coming in, gives them some steady work. And I feel better about that rather than me hoarding all the money. I don't want to spend the money to get it fixed, and then I'm doing it wrong. And it's a guy right across the street that could have been doing this for me and knocked it out in a few days. Well,
I'll say this: if you know what you're doing, then go for it. But if you don't, don't.
Don't waste your time with any, and don't be I hope nobody's offended by this, but don't waste your time with minimum wage activities. Mm-hmm. If you're doing something that's going to reduce your hourly salary, unless you just enjoy doing it.
That's what I was about to say. And if you enjoy doing it, if it's something
different.
You like to do, that's great. But if it's not your thing, don't go that road just because you're trying to save money, because you'll end up spending out more in the end.
That's a big problem with real estate investors. We always crunching numbers, and there's always that point, well, should I just do this myself or not? And you kind of need to make that decision based on the numbers, not so much based on your emotions.
Right. I got you. So what are some general obstacles that just about every investor has faced?
Finding those deals, because it's become such a competitive market. It doesn't matter really what city or state you're in now. There's a ton more real estate investors. And plus, there are higher qualified buyers. So the volume of inventory has dropped. So that's a big problem. But outside of finding good deals, you know, some of the standard stuff, finding good people to work with on your team, you know, making sure that you are not over calculating a value and under calculating the cost of repairs. That's a huge one, because if you get those wrong, that could be thousands of dollars that it costs you. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, you might buy the property at the right price, you get it fixed up and everything, but if you can't screen a tenant properly, you end up dealing with a tremendous amount of headache, somebody that doesn't pay you, and worse, they damage your property. That's a huge headache and a risk that all investors, especially landlord investors, have to take on.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. You gave in a short amount of time, you gave so much information, and I do feel like you gave enough where we could get started.
Yes.
You know, where we could get started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your organization. Now, the name Nico Don, is that some significance to you? Is that, you know, what made you choose that name, and how did it all come about?
Man, you asked the best questions. Thank you, Tambria. I love
Okay.
that. So
Let me just stop you there.
uh-oh.
Thank you. I was a journalist before I was a
Clearly.
agent. So.
Yeah, clearly. I feel that all the way for sure. So that's good. You know, when you do so many of these, you kind of get a feel when some people are naturals and then others are kind of just, anyway.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, as you probably see on the screen, my name is Victor. Vonico is my middle name. My dad's name is Victor. So all my family and friends growing up would call me Vonico, just so to not confuse me with my dad. And so many people would butcher the name, so they just started calling me Nico. Okay. And so I took a trip when I got out of high school to Jamaica with some friends and stuff. And down there, they were calling me Nico. And of course, in Jamaica, if you're a cool person, they call you a Don. And so it's like, they just the nickname came, a Nico Don. Oh, he's Nico the Don, or Nico Don. Yeah. And literally in 1995, again, I'm dating myself, but I started a company called Nico Don Projects in Atlanta. And what it was actually a entertainment promotion company. I used to throw talent shows in Decatur and Atlanta. And so I called it Nico Don's Projects, like just different projects that I was doing. Of course, the company failed miserably and all that stuff, but I thought it was great when I wrote my book a couple of years ago to just bring that back out for my speaking opportunities and my coaching.
Okay, and so what is your book about?
The book is called Proven Pathways to Wealth and Happiness. That's my name, Victor Vonico Johnson there. And it is basically about the exact action items that I took to go from living paycheck to paycheck, how I raised my credit score, how I boosted my morale and my confidence so that I could attract more favorable income opportunities to me. And the last chapter, I talk about how all of that culminated into me being able to start building my real estate portfolio. So I actually walked through the exact steps I went through to do my first real estate deal. So for cheaper,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, if I had known about the book, we would have talked about that, because you know, just the first question I would have would be, who was the person that guided you, that said, hey, this is what, you know, or did you on your own just come to the realization, you know, that this is, you know, what I need to do, or I'm sure, or you had people along the way to kind of, you know, nudge you on the right path?
Well, you know, I've always had some support, a great support system of people encouraging me. But again, like I said at the top of the interview, you know, you can get all this information, but until you apply it to yourself, it really doesn't do anything for you. And so I just kept running into these situations that were always tied to not having enough money, not having enough credit. But I was making 80, 90 grand a year. And it just all culminated into this one trip. You know, I used to take the kids down to Florida from Atlanta, and I was dead broke, but I mustered this trip together. But from my seat, it was the worst vacation ever. Speeding to Florida for a 2-day trip, tickets, all kinds of stuff. And when I literally was driving home, I almost felt like crying, but I'm looking in the mirror at my kids and my wife, and it was like, man, I got to do better than this. And when I got home from that long trip from Florida to Georgia, I just pulled out a notepad and just started writing down everything that was in my way of me becoming the man that I needed to be for my family, for my kids. And again, they probably didn't even feel any of the pain that I felt, but it was a very low moment for me. And I decided that that was the last time I would feel that way. And so for me, that's what I talk about in the book is these experiences that I went through. Though I was a smart guy and very ambitious and energetic, I just kept spending my money wrong. And so again, I outlined those steps. What did I do to overcome that? And then how did I start attracting more favorable opportunities to myself? So really good book for anybody that struggles with, how do I overcome financial struggles? How do I get motivated? How do I get a better job? Those are all outlined in the book.
Wow. So where can we purchase the book?
You can get the book on my website at nicodonprojects.com, and I'll drop that link in there.
Yep.
Especially if you want to help a brother out, so I don't have to split my proceeds with Amazon.
Right, because
you can always get it on Amazon too.
Okay.
Wow. So here's the direct link here.
And
I do have it in audiobook and paperback and
audio as well. Okay. And I'll definitely make sure all of this is available to people when they go to our to the different platforms, and they can click the links and get what they need to purchase. But your story in that regard is not just yours. That's like a story, that's everyone's story. And I think a lot of people have gotten to that point, and for lack of a better term, but in that car drive, that was almost like you hitting rock bottom, like
that was it for sure. Yeah, that was it. I mean, and again, there other people's rock bottom probably look different than mine, but for me, it was more of a feeling than anything. And that feeling, it just propelled me to be the greatest that I could be. And every day I just get up every day. How can I be better? How can I do something to put my family in a better position? How can I do something to put the kids in my community and that look like me in a better position? So that's very important to me, and I'm passionate about that.
Right. And speaking of the kids in your community, can you just give us a little information about the youth program that you have through Nico Don Projects?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that as well. So I have a program called Create Your Future Self Youth Program. And basically it's a program where we teach kids about financial literacy, the importance of starting to save now, because they're at an age where they can benefit tremendously from starting to put dollars aside. And ultimately, the whole goal of Create Your Future Self Youth Program is to teach kids how to become owners, how to get involved with real estate investing, preferably in their community, so that others don't come into these communities and become rich. Well, we can become rich in our own communities by buying that land, starting businesses, that kind of thing. And so we teach the youth about just leadership skills, how to start making better decisions and create better habits in their lives now, so that later on, they don't have to wait till they're 30, 35 to start figuring out, man, I wasted them 20 years, them 10 years doing this and that. They actually have some concepts that they can take away with them going into college.
And so is this based in your town now? Because you're not in Atlanta anymore, correct?
I'm not in Atlanta. I'm in Dallas, Texas now. But no, most of the time we do it as a virtual program.
Okay.
So we've had school districts in California, Georgia, Virginia hire us to do. We can customize it either as a 1-week program, 2 hours a day for 5 days, or they may contract us to do a Saturday for the whole month. So 4 Saturdays over the course of the month, or, whatever works. Even as an after school program, we've been able to present it. And it gives the schools an alternative for some after school time learning.
Okay, that's cool. So Victor Johnson, that's not it, but it's it for now. You have so much to offer. Like I said, I definitely want to schedule another opportunity for you to join us and give us some other nuggets and helping us along this way with real estate investing and getting our credit healthy, so we can, not only invest, but purchase a home, because you'd be, a lot of us need to get that first home too.
Yes, we do.
So I hope that, we can get together again and you can come back and we can talk about that. And so your website again is Nico Don Projects. Tamknows.com.
And if anybody struggles with that or the spelling, like if anybody's listening, they can go to victorvjohnson.com and it'll get you right there as well. And of course, again, feel free to reach out to me. For those of you out there that are just looking for passive real estate investment opportunities, you can visit my other site, which is the numeric numbers 555equityllc.com. And we do allow a small list of investors to participate in some of our cash flowing deals.
Oh, nice. And so that's where, say for instance, if if I'm ready to invest, I'm not quite ready to get that loan yet or something like that, but I want to start out investing, I could go there and maybe take part in some of the deals you all have going on.
Absolutely. It's a tremendous leveraging point, especially for people that got like money in 401k. They're seeing 3 or 4% returns. With these deals we're doing, nobody makes less than 8%, but usually it's in the 12 to 15%. So it's more so for the person who wants to just passively invest, not really interested in going to find properties and working with rehabbers and screening tenants. They just want to park their money for a couple of years and make some good returns.
Okay. All righty. I'll check into that more, because if they're parking their money there, is there a dividend that they would receive over time, or how long would that,
Another great question from a great former journalist. So typically what the deal looks like is a person, let's say they invest $50,000 into a transaction we have going, they're going to get the first lien position. So that's the first security part. And then within 30 days of us closing, they'll start making monthly payment. They'll start getting monthly payments as interest payments, usually in the $200 to $300 range. So that's their interest being paid out to them. And then the principal gets paid out at the 24th month. And sometimes we pay them a bonus on top of that with 3 to 5 points extra on top of what they invested. So great opportunity, especially for people, again, that have money in an IRA. You're not getting monthly checks out of that. This is a great opportunity for you to see some little stipends along the way. You're getting your returns, and then get your big money back at the end.
Right. And that could be a savings to get them to their project that they do on their own. So I think that's a great start. Okay. I'm not going to let you say anything else, because every time you say something, I think of something else that I want to ask you.
I got you. That's a good thing. It means I'm adding value. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and what about social media? Where are you on social media?
So people can visit me, pretty much my name, as you see it on here, Victor Vonico Johnson. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter as Abundant VJ.
Abundant VJ.
VJ on Twitter. Yep. Pretty much Victor Vonico Johnson. You can find me on, I do LinkedIn on every Monday. I do a Mindset Monday, really motivating folks.
You do it on LinkedIn?
I do it on LinkedIn. Actually, we do share it on Facebook and Instagram as well. Now I thought about it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add or leave us with now that we know how to contact you?
Take action. Do not sit on your hands. If you want this thing, go and get it. Just make a decision that this is what you want and just go get it. Don't let anything stop you. Get motivated, get encouraged, get a mentor, and go out there and get that first deal.
Yes. I agree. And thanks so much, Victor. And we'll see you again. Thanks again to Victor Johnson for joining us and sharing his expertise. And thank you for listening to TamKnows Real Estate. And I'll talk to you next time.
TamKnows Real Estate, she do. Yeah. Whoa, TamKnows Real Estate.